Okay, people. Yeah, we did something a little different, right? We did something a little different today, and it was check out Beneath the Banyan Tree. And I say it's something a little different because this is a subtitled film, right? And hey, I don't usually watch subtitle films, not because I hate them, but it is a chore. It is a mission because I have to stop and pause and rewind and just seeing the subtitles. That's the killer. But but I got hit up by the incredible AJ Furman, right? She hit me up, and as you know, people, right? Some of our best interviews, our best conversations have come thanks to AJ. So once AJ hits me, I'm gonna check that shit out. And everyone needs an AJ in their life because, hey, she puts me onto some of the best shit. No lie. No lie. There's no fluffing here, people. If she gave me a dud, I ain't saying this shit. But she ain't ever given me a dud, right? And Beneath the Banyan Tree, Jesus Christ, this is such a beautiful film. It really is. It really is. So it is written and directed by Nani Li Yang, right? It's a Chinese film, people. So I am going to butcher these names. I'm gonna butcher these names. I don't mean to. I stumble on words. So let's go, right? So Yang, she also produced the film along with Yu Wang and Troy Cha, right? It is associate produced by Songji Zhai and Harley Habin Lee, um, with Steve Yandrich producing consultant and Albi Zhang as a line producer. The music is from Wei Zhang Shu. Cinematography is Edwin Beckenbach. It is edited by Mangel Han um, Jif Lee. Production design is Han Yu Wang. Art direction is Fu Zhao. Um, the set was set up, created by Pierre Shang, Chan Yi Hu, and Yang Zhai. Uh, Hair, makeup, all of that is Joanna Chen and Star Sai. Um, and also assisting with direction is Ye Wang and David Twai Yai. So yeah, there's a lot of talented people involved. Now our cast, right? So Mrs. Wu is played by A Lei Yang. Her daughter Ai-Jia is played by Kathy Wu. Uh, Kathy Wu's boyfriend Vance is played by Travis Goodman. Um, her Ai-Jia's niece and nephew. That's right, isn't it? Her brother's kids. I feel that's a niece and nephew. I don't know why I always get this stuff mixed up. I feel it's a niece and nephew, so we're just gonna go with that, right? So we have Zhong Yu, who is played by Zhao Wang, and his sister Zhang Ji, played by Demi Qi. Uh, there is Mrs. Tao, who is played by Jing Zhai, and she is Mrs. Wu's friend. Friend? Kind of friend. There is their neighbor Nathan, played by Miles Tagtamia. Little Jai, who runs the restaurant and the Citizen Center. He is played by James Takulong. Um, there is Sarah, a work colleague of Ai-Jia, who is played by Susan Elena Matos. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. I mean, they're our main ones. Okay, now, um, the gist of the film, uh, that is yeah, let's. After her son is jailed, Mrs. Wu, a matriarch with high expectations, struggles to uphold her family's remaining reputation by parenting her estranged daughter, with whom Wu and her son's two unmanageable teenagers must seek shelter in the US with. So, yeah. That is, yeah, I mean that's it, man. But it is, man, there is just this power to this film. It is crazy. So we start off, right? So it looks like we're at the airport, right? And Ajay, she's leaving. She's leaving, she's going to the States. And she's there with, Mrs. Wu, her mum, her brother and his wife, and the kids. And there is so much it just in this opening scene, right? Because the mum, Mrs. Wu, she's just all a bit like, like, what's happening? Why are you doing this? And her brother, he's just like, hey, no, everything's fine, bum bum bum. And it's like she's listening to him, but not really the daughter, right? When AJ gives her mum a hug, like the hug is there. You can feel like the love in the hug, but then there is also this distance, right? Now, one thing that Nani does with this film, right? We get a lot of these close-up shots, right? And in this scene, right, we get the hug, and then we get this close-up on Mrs. Wu's face, right, over the shoulder of AJ, and you just see this like it is, I don't know, it's not a disconnect, but it is that look of like, why are you doing this? Like, what are you doing with your life? It's that kind of, people, like when the parents are just like, I know better than you. You are messing up majorly, right? So we had this. Um, but then we move forward, right? So we have AJ, we see her, in the US. She's now in Hollywood in LA. And she wants to be a writer, but she's getting these rejection letters. So to support herself, she's doing Chinese tours, right? Yeah, I mean, you've seen the tours around the city. These are the landmarks, blah blah blah, right? And anyone can go on them, but then you have the specific ones that cater for tourists from different countries, right? So she is translating and doing all of this. And it, again, like, just seeing these interactions on the tours, right? She's taking around a lot of older people. There's young people, there's older people though. And again, you can see that cultural disconnect, right? Where, well, not cultural disconnect, the oh gosh, age, right? That whole age kind of thing where the older people are a bit like, no, 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 youngster, we know what we're doing, right? You have to do this. There is the cultural element of, there's, these people come over from China, she's in the US. So it's just like, in the culture, right? You listen to the elders, you do what we do, we're not here for you, all of this. And we see all of that within these scenes, right? Later on, there is this whole thing around time and everything. And it's, yeah, it is because I think you look at it and be like, yeah, 10 minutes is nothing, right? But in certain cultures, right, it's the mark of the most disrespect if you're late, right? If you keep your elders waiting, right? And so we see all of this. And it's just fascinating, right? That we are getting this snapshot into these lives, because it's not action packed, but it is so rich in this story, in these people's lives, right? This tapestry of information that is getting woven together. It is very much like the drawings we're seeing from Mrs. Wu. And there's this point when she is talking about the art and the use of space, negative space, right? And about having that balance, and the space is very important to a story, right? Like, you don't want it fully cluttered. You need to give things room to breathe. But it's about knowing how much room to give. Like, you think about that, and that's so true. It's so powerful. But it is also crazy, right? Like, Mrs. Wu has this understanding with the art, but not so much when it comes to her family. You know what I mean? Like, with her daughter, she's a bit like, oh, this is what you must do. This is how you must live, right? Don't tell me this. What's going on? Oh, I feel you should do better. I feel your life could be better. Oh, I think you could have a better boyfriend. I think, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yo, there is no space, right? There is no space in that regard. With the kids, it's a bit like, they must be this, they must be that, and it's crazy. But then we see her with Mrs. Tao, and like, then that's a different relationship, right? That is more like her daughter and her, right? So in this relationship with Mrs. Tao, Mrs. Wu is like her daughter, and Mrs. Tao is the one being like, oh, this is this, bum, you should do this. You know what I mean? Like, why is that happening? And and it's an interesting one, because they're friends, but Mrs. Tao is just, she is that busybody, right? All in everyone's business, being like, oh, I heard this, and oh, I heard that. But then also a little gloaty gloat, right? She's like, oh, my son bought me a car. My son takes me for checkups. My son is very influential. What does your daughter do again? Oh, and your son's in jail. And so it's all, you can see how these words are cutting to Mrs. Wu, right? But it's one of her only friends in LA. So it's just like, it's like, all right, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna take it. But it's just like, "Urgh." But then it's not, like, you can also see that Mrs. Tao, she's not necessarily trying to be mean and horrible because she's trying to help Mrs. Wu, but it is just the way she's going about it. But it's looking at these complex relationships, right? And how, you know what I mean? We navigate those things. You know, it's just like how it's like you can see someone uncomfortable in one situation, right? And they'd be like, oh, and you can see they're just like, I can't believe they're talking to me like that. And why is this happening? But then they do the same to someone else, right? It's not that case of, oh, I don't like it when this happens to me. So I'm going to ensure this doesn't happen to someone else, right? No, 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 no. We don't see that, right? So that's the insane thing about it all, that we have all of that, you know, and it's painted in that way because it is so true, right? These are things are so true. Like we have Vance trying to impress Mrs. Wu and it not necessarily working. And there is this great scene, right, where yeah, Asia is in bed and Vance gets in and he can see that she's had a tough day, right? You can see she's had a tough day. And so he goes in for a hug and he's just like, oh, hey, how you doing? Does your mum like me? And then the response, you just you just see how it just cuts. And it's just like, oh, but it's also like, you know what I mean? You know those situations, right? And I think one of the great things about the film is, regardless of the culture, I think everyone can emphasize. Oh shit! It's not just Chinese. I struggle with people. It's just everyday words. It's like, you know what I mean. Everyone can emphasize with what is happening. You know, we've all been in certain situations that are sometimes exactly the same, sometimes just similar. You know, like trying to get your parents to understand the things that you're doing, right? And to respect your choices and be like, listen, yeah, I'm trying to live my life, right? I might fuck up, but I'm just trying to do the best I can here, right? Or being new at school and trying to connect with people, right? And so sometimes you might do things people say, but you think, oh, if I do this thing, they're gonna like me, right? But then realizing that, oh, maybe these people are full of shit, right? So there's all of these things going on, you know, making a genuine friend, but then having that, oh, should I be friends with this person? Like, oh, what's happening here? Right. So we get to see all of this. And it is, yeah, it is fascinating, right? We see the relationship and how Zhang Yu is trying to settle in, you know, and we see that, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's just you get it, right, and you get why he's being secretive and all of this, and it might seem that Zhang Qi, she's being mean and a bitch, but you have to understand what's going on, right? There is so much pain in the film, right? Everyone is going through all of these things, but no one's really talking about it, right? In this family, there are all of these barriers put up because it's just like, oh, I can't tell my parents, oh, I can't tell my mom, you know what I mean? I can't tell my aunt, right? Like, who's going to understand how I'm feeling? Who's going to understand all of these things happening in my life? it is, there's so many just these moments that are both just joyous and sad at the same time, because we're seeing this beautiful scene, but it's also just like, oh, I get the pain, right? I get the pain. It's just, oh man. Like, yo, people, I cannot recommend Beneath the Banyan Tree enough. It is such a rich and powerful film. We get um Ai-Jia, Kathy Wu just narrating these moments in the film, right? Talking about the banyan tree and the significance of that title, right? And then we get this whole kind of thing about acceptance and, love and respect. And then, but what does that mean? Right? We get all of this. There's things that are said and revealed, and that comes clear, that manifests itself. It is a really beautiful film. And then the way it ends, yo, right? Because it ends on this note, right? It's not this definitive in the sand. This is the outcome ending. But there is this moment that is shared where you feel the scales fall from the eyes, right? The scales fall from the eyes, and there is this realization, there is this coming together. And it's such a great way to end the film, right? It really just hits you, man. Really hits you. And before that, we have this Yang Ki Nathan scene that is just, it is, god damn, god damn. And the the cast is incredible because there is all of these things that they have to convey. It's all of these things they have to convey, and they do it so well, right? So although it is subtitled, and I know I missed a lot, right? These characters are so expressive, right? The way they project the emotions, right? They hide the emotions, this nuance, this subtlety. It really comes across. And so that it tells so much of the story, right? It tells so much of the story, people. So yeah, if you just go watch the film, go watch the film, because if you love stories, if you love the slice of life, it's kind of, now the style is completely different, but the sentiment of the film, right? A Paul Thomas Anderson, right? A Richard Linklater, it's all there. It is all there in the subtlety, the nuance, the delicate touch in the way Nani tells his story. People, go watch it, please. How have I ever steered you wrong, right? So yeah, Beneath the Banyan Tree. Put that in your life, people. Let that shit grow. Let that shit grow and nourish your soul. Okay?